Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. 4 shot, 2 killed on Hillary Avenue in St. Andrew. What went wrong? Family members raised questions after the killing of 57-year-old woman. And later in sports, Jamaican sprinter test positive for COVID-19 ahead of World Championships. I'm Shane Masters and here are the details. And we begin with news in St. Elizabeth. The police are this afternoon trying to find out the reasons behind the murder of a 57-year-old woman in the parish last night. As we hear in this report, even family members are puzzled. And we go back to that story in a minute. Now, 2 men are dead and 2 others injured, including a 2-year-old child, following a drive-by shooting on Hillary Avenue off Red Hills Road this morning. Now, our reporter Kirk Wright was on location and filed this report.
Thank you very much. Somewhere around 11:30, crime scene detectives are still here processing the scene along Hillary Avenue off Red Hills Road. That's in the vicinity of the Calabar High School. Now, we understand from the police that somewhere about 8 o'clock this morning, a taxi traveling along this road, carrying several passengers, was shot up. At the end of it, 2 persons died, the taxi operator and the passenger in the front seat. We also understand that the mother and child who were in the back seat, they too received gunshots and they have been taken to hospital and are in stable condition. Now, we're not sure of the motive of this attack, but when we spoke with the police, they say it could have been, the intended target could have been the passenger in the taxi. He said to be from the Red Hills Road area, and the police believe it might have been a continuation of the ongoing conflict, gang conflict in that area that has been happening for quite some time now.
We are all aware, if we're following, of the conflict that has been almost permanent within that space, decades-old conflict, and we are surmising that this may be a continuation or furthering of the aggression within that conflict.
Do you think the killing of the taxi man was just to slow him down so they could get the probably intended target?
I am not at this time able to say.
Some other things happened in this space. There was a shooting of another taxi operator on Valentine Avenue this morning. A taxi operator who said to have gone to pick up either his girlfriend or his spouse. While he was waiting in the car for her, he was pounced on by gunmen who shot him. He was later found by police officers. Also, a shootout ensued this morning between police and gunmen. There were no fatalities in that. The police were chasing a Toyota Axia motor car with men aboard. Shootout happened. We were told that the police vehicle was shot up, but no one got hurt. So, for now, as I've said to you before, at 11:30, the scene here was still being processed by the police. We're waiting to get more information, and as we get more information, we'll pass it on to you.
That report from Kirk Wright. Now, more reactions this afternoon to the government's announcement that paternity leave will be introduced in the public sector, while maternity leave will be extended to 3 months. The Jamaica Employees Federation says it welcomes the move.
I think for us in Jamaica, it should be viewed as something positive because, you need all of the parents, both parents, to play greater roles in the lives of their children, and this is but one small way of encouraging that.
At the same time, there's strong criticism from the president of the Micro, Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises, Don Wignall. Mr. Wignall argued that while the idea is a good one, he questions how it will work.
It is not a bad idea, but to be approached, I think, with some level of caution. We have a situation in the public sector where labor reform is on the table and not completed as yet. So that, in conjunction with labor reform, I suppose, when the details come to light, we can have another debate. As far as the private sector is concerned, I know you said that you're going to discuss it later. I think that's a total another story.
The government is also seeking to provide leave for adoptive parents. The matter was discussed on the morning agenda on Power 106. As Television Jamaica switches from analog to digital, the government says emphasis is being placed on providing the service to the most vulnerable. The digital switchover, also known as ATSC 3.0, would allow better access to TV broadcast services island-wide, but it would require additional technological devices like set-top boxes. Kelisha Williams is at the ATSC 3.0 conference in Trelawney and now reports.
It has had to take a leap of faith to believe in a technology that I believe, yes, is going to revolutionize the world.
Minister with responsibility for information Robert Morgan lauding Television Jamaica for taking the bold move from analog to digital at the Advanced Television System Committee ATSC 3.0 conference in Trelawney on Tuesday. Mr. Morgan stressed that the initiative shows that Jamaica is leading the way for many other countries.
The only way countries like Singapore, which we talk about on radio every day, have been able to win is by moving forward ahead of everyone else. Because if you continue to adopt technology after everybody has adopted it, it means that you're always going to be catching up.
TVJ became the first in the country and third in the world to move to ATSC 3.0, which is simply a new system which merges the internet with TV broadcast. However, the new switchover could mean many will have to get new set-top boxes to access the service. And in years to come, some people will also have to change the television sets they currently use. But how will vulnerable Jamaicans afford this? Well, according to Mr. Morgan, that is where the government comes in.
There are opportunities for partnerships, and we had conversations about that earlier, which is one of the fundamental concerns of the government is how do we give the most vulnerable access to this technology? And those are conversations that we're going to have going forward. But fundamentally, we believe as a government that it must be private sector led. It must not be led by us. Because we recognize that government is not good at running business.
In the meantime, Executive Director for the Broadcasting Commission of Jamaica, Cordell Green, who was also speaking at the conference, said he's confident that the rollout of ATSC 3.0 in the island will be successful.
The people we are dealing with in terms of their intellect and fortitude that they're capable of delivering, and I want to thank them for this incredible journey.
Kelisha Williams, TVJ News.
We go back to an earlier story now. The St. Elizabeth police are this afternoon trying to find out the reason behind the murder of a 57-year-old woman in the parish last night.
This is the house that 57-year-old Carmen Wellington called home. But that's no more, as hoodlums claimed her life Tuesday evening. The family is now left asking why. It's understood that about minutes to 9 o'clock, Miss Wellington was at home with relatives when armed men drove up in a white Toyota Axio and shot her multiple times. When our news team visited the family Wednesday morning, they were distraught.
Come up here and shoot her, she sit down right there, so. And she have my little nephew, my sister, baby. 1 year, a couple months old baby. She passed the baby, give my sister, I say, hold the baby. A few times now if you hold him. By the time my sister take the baby and go in, my mother come back and sit down there. So. Then my other sister and I was hearing my mother say, "Whoa," and then she hear the shot.
Miss Wellington's daughter says she does not know why someone would have killed her mother in such a manner. Miss Wellington was a singer by profession.
I hand dog in left hand. Dog they shot him out by hand and my mother slim, my mother sick. She have sugar and she have pressure.
It's understood that the murder happened just as the electricity went out in the area. The police say no motive has been established for the killing. This is less than 24 hours after the murder of 31-year-old Tyrone Morgan, a resident of Commerpend. Morgan was found in the Stephen Run area about 6 a.m. on Tuesday with a single bullet wound to the head. Herman Green, TVJ News.
And it's time for a break here on the Midday News. Stay with us. Much more stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. Over 2,000 healthcare workers in the Northeast Regional Health Authority were recognized for their contribution to the fight against COVID-19. A well-needed recognition and a breath of fresh air. That's how the over 2,000 healthcare workers describe it. These workers have been on the front line of the COVID-19 battle along the tourist belt in northern Jamaica. The recognition is even more significant as those healthcare workers faced mounting backlash following the establishment of the first major isolation facility in the island. That facility was at the Grand Bahia Principe Hotel in Runaway Bay, St. Anne.
Approximately 3,700 patients were treated and cared for from this site. We became masters in managing isolation and quarantine facilities, and were offering expert advice to and sharing our standard operating procedures with our counterparts in other regions who by this time were also operating similar sites.
But while carrying out their duties, they too were impacted by the ravages of the pandemic. COVID led to the death of NERA's board chairman Tyrone Robinson Sr. on January 1 last year. There were also other deaths within last year, to include a male attendant from the Port Antonio Hospital in Portland, Courtney Williams, and patient care assistant at the St. Anne's Bay Regional Hospital, Georgia Walker. Both individuals served with NERA for 18 and 19 years respectively.
These were indeed very low periods for the NERA family.
It's why Regional Director of NERA, Fabia Lam, says this recognition for healthcare workers is an important milestone. In the meantime, the NERA Regional Director says up to June 30, some 631 people have died from the virus. Meanwhile, 17,212 people were confirmed with the virus within the region. However, she says the vaccination drive continues in earnest.
Our healthcare heroes in this region have administered an approximate total doses of 184,181 COVID-19 vaccines.
She says 98,796 doses were administered in St. Anne, 52,733 in St. Mary, and 32,652 doses in Portland. But despite the recognition of healthcare workers, a word of caution from Professor Denise Eldemar Shearer that the COVID-19 pandemic is not yet over.
COVID has not gone. COVID's not gone. And as many of you know, I deal with a special age group of people. We have a lot to do with our older folks. Many of them have missed their appointments. They have missed their follow-up appointments. We are also going to have the ravages of COVID and its impact through isolation to deal with in the coming months with the chronic non-communicable diseases.
It's now time for the Business Minute.
Cigna's Credit Investments Limited plans to raise up to $2.3 billion in its first preference share issue this month. The funds from the current offer will go towards financing investments in its pipeline. The cumulative convertible preference share will raise the funds in 2 equal tranches of $1.15 billion each on the private market, with the option of Jamaican or US dollar currency subscription. Twitter is suing billionaire Elon Musk to try to force him to buy the social media firm, setting up a legal battle with the world's richest man. It comes after Mr. Musk announced he was walking away from his proposed $44 billion takeover of Twitter on Friday, claiming that Twitter had not given information about the number of fake and spam accounts on the platform. Now, Twitter has asked a Delaware court to order Mr. Musk to complete the merger at the agreed $54.20 per Twitter share. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Cody Ann Barrett.
And now for the top regional and international stories.
In the region, less than 24 hours after St. Lucia confirmed their first case of the COVID-19 Omicron BA.5 subvariant, Belize has become the next Caribbean country to confirm the presence of the variant. The Ministry of Health and Wellness says recent genomic sequencing of 40 samples between June 1 to 28 this year confirmed 100% of the samples with the Omicron variant. It said 39 samples were confirmed as the BA.2 subvariant and 1 sample was confirmed as BA.5. The BA4 and BA5 are the predominant subvariants circulating in the United States and globally at this time. On the international scene, Sri Lanka's political and economic crisis escalated as protesters stormed the Prime Minister's office this morning, demanding the country's leaders step down after the president fled without resigning. The president had been expected to formally resign today, but instead left the crisis-hit nation and appointed the prime minister as its acting leader. The move further enraged protesters who want both leaders to vacate their roles as the country's 22 million people struggles to buy basic foods, fuel, and medicine. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Cody Ann Barrett.
And here's a preview of what's coming up in this evening's health report.
In this evening's health report, we look at cataracts.
Very rarely, babies are born with cataracts, a congenital cataract. And that is usually as a result of the mother contracting some sort of virus while she was pregnant, while the eye was developing in her womb. And it is recognized early, or should be recognized early, because it has to be dealt with early. If that cataract remains in the baby's eye, that baby may grow up to have visual problems later on because the light is not getting into the eye to stimulate it to grow as it should.
That's a health report in Primetime News at 7. And now for today's healthy living tip. Avoid prolonged exposure to ultraviolet light. Check medicinal side effects. Consider cataract surgery and live a healthy lifestyle.
And we head to a quick break. When we come back, Renardo Brown will have your Midday Sports report.
Welcome back. It's now time for your Midday Sports. Now, sprinter Jelani Walker tested positive for COVID-19 and has not yet joined the delegation in Eugene, Oregon. Walker's situation is being monitored by the Jamaica medical team. He is named as an alternate for the 100 meters and is a member of the 4x100 meter pool. The medical team is not yet aware of the date of Walker's positive test. The concern is that Walker would not only need to test negative for COVID-19 but recover sufficiently to begin training without any negative side effects. Walker ended 4th in the men's 100 meters at the national championships in a personal best of 10 seconds flat. And principal of G.C. Foster College of Physical Education and Sport, Maurice Wilson, says there is a huge disparity in coaches who specialize in sprint and field events at the institution. While Jamaica has dominated the sprint since 2008, there has not been a similar result in the field. There has only been 5 medals in the horizontal jumps in 17 editions of the World Championships, while there has only been 2 medals at the Olympic Games. Speaking with TVJ Sports, Wilson says field events like the jumps aren't attracting new coaches.
Well, at GC Foster College, when we give students an opportunity to train as coaches, most of our students choose the sprints, which is a part of how we operate in Jamaica. It's all about the sprints. It's a glamour event. But we do encourage some of them to specialize in other disciplines. And I think we have to be more vigilant and advocate more and create that intervention that they will want to be in these areas.
Now, Wilson says something must be done to rectify the situation.
I am looking at possibly a 3-year plan to have a number of coaches in some of the disciplines, what you would call non-traditional events that we are not doing as well as we would want. We are going to take it on as a mandate through the institution to try and develop coaches in these areas.
Now, Wilson, who also coaches at Sprint Tech, is the technical leader for Jamaica's team to the World Athletics Championships in Eugene, Oregon. Now to cricket, another poor batting display from the West Indies saw them being dismissed for their second lowest total at home in one-day international cricket as Bangladesh are on the verge of taking an unbeatable 2-0 lead in their 3-match series at Providence in Guyana. Now sent to bat the opening pair of Shea Hope and Kyle Mears, struggled with the conditions early before the latter went for 17 with a score on 27. From there, the Windies' innings fell apart as they were bowled out for 108 in 35 overs. Kemo Paul top scored with 25 not out, while Hope made 18. Jamaicans Rovman Powell 13 and Brandon King 11 were the only other batters to reach double figures. Mahidi Hassan Miraz bagged 4 for 29, while Nassim Ahmed claimed 3 for 19. Bangladesh, in their run chase, they were 58 for the loss of 1 at sports time. And that's it for your Midday Sports Report. Shane, it's back to you.
Thanks, Ronaldo. And that's the Midday News. I'm Shane Masters. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, have a good afternoon.